Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the June edition of the Arcane Games and Events Open Series. We are about to head into our top 8 draft pod. My name is Bryce Platts, and I'm here with Marcus Brown, Schrodinger's Pummel himself. How you doing, Marcus?
Hello again. Doing okay.
How was your performance today?
Abysmal. 1-3 drop.
Excellent. Well, I'm really glad to see you here. Your loss is our gain in the booth. So let's take a look at our top 8 bracket. As we mentioned before, we got Fuzzy Delp, Zachary Wallach, Andrew Rudin, Peter Budensick, Talon Stradley, Chris Ayali, Alan Hong, and Mark Lewis. And we are going to be looking over the shoulder of none other than our local Riptide sympathizer, Talon Stradley.
Tell me what all the traps, yeah.
Tell me what you know about Talon, Marcus.
Talon is a long-time believer in the actual fatigue Riptide strategy. He is more than familiar with the hero. He knows the gross green man from the pits inside and out. And if you've caught him in previous AGEs, he knows how to pilot the deck just as well as we're describing. So, someone to watch.
Absolutely. He's also one of the teammates of the Pitch It To Me podcast team.
Indeed.
Who are really putting up some strong performances here today.
Putting on a clinic today, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Fuzzy Delp, obviously, is a member of that team as well. He's our #1 seed. And also our bubble boy, number 9, Clark Moore. Also
He's
a
going to
member
have a
of the
bad
Pitch It To
beat
Me
story
podcast.
about that, but yeah.
Tell me about it.
He did very well. He did really well today.
He did, but just didn't quite make it there. And
It's unfortunate.
who hasn't had that as part of their story? Just a rite of passage. Let's talk about prizing, shall we? The winner of the final draft pod today is going to go home with $400. That's $400 USD and 30 AGE open points. Second is $200. Third through fourth, 100. Fifth through eighth, 50. And 15 AGE points. We also have. Let's go ahead and take a shot of this. We've also got a medal for our June AGE champion, and because this is Arcane Games and Events, I actually just learned this. We give out one of these every single tournament. An Arcane Lantern that is in beautiful cold.
Oh, I only just got that, the Arcane Lantern.
Christine had to explain it to me like 3 times this morning, and then I was like, I got it. Okay.
It took me this long, so.
And so back to the prizing. That money looks very enticing, but you know what looks even more enticing to me, Marcus?
Points.
Absolutely.
Points mean prizes.
Let's take a look at how everybody's looking going into the 2 last AGE Opens of the year. Charles Dunn is the obvious runaway at 77 points. His lead is surely secure. Marcus, I don't see you here.
No, I am not here. But there is another Brown, Mr. Ryan Brown.
Who we all know well as my personal nemesis. But also an all-around great guy. Do you happen to know where you're at in the ladder here, Marcus?
Somewhere around the 20 points.
That's the 20 points.
Yeah,
not the 20th standing.
I think I've dropped to like, if not the lower half of, 32, maybe to like 33rd or something. I don't really want to look after today's performance, but I'll have to eventually.
That's devastating. Well, you know who's feeling really good going into this top 8 are our 11th seed, Andrew Rudin, who is in our top 8 of this draft, Talon Stradley, number 7, and number 16, Fuzzy Delp. Fuzzy is probably going to secure his place in the Players' Championship with his performance today.
Yeah.
Because this will allow him to break away from the pack of people who are probably hovering around that like 34, 35 point range, because there's a lot of them. And that's where that 12th to 16th place today is really going to matter. So hopefully Clark can go home feeling good that he secured a good amount of AGE points.
I think he should, yeah, considering that some other people didn't necessarily come out for the draft one. So,
yeah, absolutely. And don't forget that all of these players you see before you, which will probably fluctuate a little bit, will be competing in a Players' Championship, just these top 16 players, for winner-take-all AGE Champion 2024 for $3,000. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into our draft. We've got the word that the players are ready, and this will be the final draft pod of the day. Once again, we are looking over the shoulder of Talon Stradley, member of the Pitch It To Me podcast team, and just an all-around pleasure to play with and be around. Honestly, all of the Pitch It To Me guys are such a blast. Love sitting across from them, playing a good old game of Flesh and Blood.
Absolutely. Everyone is cordial, especially Talon.
Yeah, 100%. And who doesn't want a Riptide main to make it all the way, right?
No, I really, considering that Riptide has actually taken off a little bit more with Murky Water, his expertise on the hero is like pretty invaluable, honestly, for like learning about more developments in the matchup, because I have recently myself stepped away from just Guardian and played some other heroes like Phi, Rising Rebellion.
Oh, weird.
So that's a matchup that might affect traps being turned on.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're still in a phase of the game where sometimes when people sit across from a Riptide, they don't actually know what all the traps do and don't know how the cards interact. So I definitely think Talon has an edge there still.
That's definitely why I would not take his expertise and him as a pilot for granted, because if you have a really good Riptide in your locals, you know what you're in for. Like 100%. You say, if someone has never seen a Riptide before in Swiss at like a cooling, who knows what's going to happen?
Exactly. It's kind of like your first ever game against an illusionist.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever going to win their first game against an illusionist because you're going to be spending the majority of the time reading all of the cards.
What does this do?
Yeah, exactly.
How does
Back
this
and forth.
pop?
What is a Spectra? But enough about that. Here we go. This is pack one, pick one of the last round of AGE draft.
Final Red Blanche.
That is not that.
Two Red Blanche.
My goodness. I like how you pronounce it in the French fashion.
Red Bastion as well.
So Talon is looking at a pretty cracked first pack for staying open. Let's see if he elects to instead send a signal by taking one of the class cards. But honestly, I'm not seeing anything that tells me I want to signal a class this early. Red Battlefront Bastion, Red Blanche, they are just too good. Yeah. I think. Oh, and of course he goes for the foil one.
Go for the shiny. I think there's too many good 3-for-7s to let any of them chance it with the wheel, because they're not going to. We're in pack one, so they will be scooped up quickly so that others can stay relatively open.
Absolutely. So let's take a look here. Let's see if Talon received a signal. We see 2 Assassin cards, 2 Illusionist cards. The rare is in the Assassin.
Another rare in Astral Etchings, Illusionist.
Are we missing? Oh, no, we have our Chi card.
The foil is still in that pack, so I think a common was taken.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Talon takes a blue card.
Double Trouble. Okay.
Out of the second, out of his pack 1, pick 2, blue Double Troubles. It's important to note that Talon is not sending a signal with this pick because it is in the rare slot. He may be feeling like he's getting rewarded here because he's seeing a Rousing Wave and also a red Assassin attack reaction.
Dense Blue Mist.
What do you think of Dense Blue Mist in draft?
It can be tricky to get off.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, in the same way that Enigma likes it in Constructed, it can be good for her because she's the one of the heroes most likely, that's a good pick there, to make use of pitching on another hero's turn.
So this is a really interesting strategy we're seeing from Talon because he's taking class cards very early. However, he is not choosing to take them from the common slot, which means that he's basically not telling anyone to his left that, hey, I'm in Assassin. Don't touch those cards because I'm in it. Which is interesting because he's passing a lot of really powerful red attack reactions, which could create another new to his left.
It could, yes.
But very much following suit and committing to his strategy super early. We grab a red Impulsive Desire. Have you drafted much new in this set, Marcus?
I think, new is the hero I've drafted the most.
Because of a propensity, or just because that's the way it shakes out for you?
It's a combination. Like it's a hero I'm comfortable on. I really like Assassin. Here's a Stilettos. I feel like that should be an instant windmill slam pick.
Yeah, because we're finding the best in slot equipment in the first pack, which means that Talon won't have to worry about having them wheel or anything like that in packs 2 and 3.
Not to interrupt my other thought too much, but keeping with the pack picks, I think this is Talon taking one open pick and then absolutely cementing his seat as the new because the equipment is there within the first 5 picks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, why would you not if you're confident in it?
And he finds a Bonds of Memory. This is one of those bread and butter new cards that are super important because it gives you a targeted removal from your opponent's graveyard, which if they are reluctant to block with those really juicy blue cards, you can still get at them.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we've got. We are seeing...
Heart Desire Mind.
I'm seeing... No, the only ninja card I saw was that blue Blessing of Chi.
Okay, so he's recognizing that Zen is sealed off early in the draft, so...
Honestly, I don't think Talon cares either way.
No,
he was pretty cemented early.
Yeah, you can't really do much apart from consider the equipment picks as like hate drafts if you want to pivot at this point, but there's no reason for him to.
Yeah, which, you know, could bite him in the butt at some point because if you're stuck in your lane and you find out that, oh my goodness, none of these assassin cards wield from my first pack, then you could find yourself in a world of hurt. Right now, Talon seems to be sitting pretty... Who else do we have at the table? We still have our resident Enigma Forcer, Zachary Wallach.
We do. Chris Ayali.
We have Chris Ayali, who's drafted 2 Zen decks today. Turns out that he had one of the worst... I think technically, if you want to go by the wins, he had the worst Zen deck of the second pod because he was taken down by Andrew Rudin. Andrew Rudin was taken down by Fuzzy Delt. So let's see if Chris and Andrew decide to go Zen again. Bottom line, somebody's in it because we're seeing very few ninja cards coming around.
Yeah, here comes the Illusionist Headpiece round again.
But Talon says that's A-okay because I see a red stealth card. I'm taking it. Where do you rank all of the red stealth cards, I guess, from Impulsive Desire, Art of Desires of Flesh, and the non-attack action one? How do you rank those?
I put Desires of Flesh on top because, of course, attack action cards are the most common thing you will find in Limited. But looking for instants and reactions can be fine because into Enigma, it's fine. And also into the new Mirror, it can be good as well.
Absolutely.
Because you're both dealing with reactions as well. The only hard part against the Enigma, of course, is like connecting in the first place. They will definitely put up all the shields.
Looks like Talon's taking the opportunity to do a hate draft, finding that Moon Chakra doesn't want any of these Enigma opponents, namely Zach Wallach, blocking out any of his attack reactions at instant speed. And we find
Blue Intimate
Inducement. That is a
like
fine
that
pickup on the wheel. Yep. Does everything you want as an assassin. Blue, blocks 3. And this is one of those interesting cards in this set that in the separate colors, in blue, yellow, and red, it doesn't scale in terms of numbers, right?
No,
it
it's
kind
based
of
on the cards you see.
Exactly. We're seeing a lot of Illusionist cards wheeling. May indicate that we're in another 2 Enigma pod like we were last time. Talon reviews his picks. We're not stoked about the yellow Evasive Leap or obviously the Sigil of Solitude, but by and large, these are all playable cards.
Yeah, he's got a lot of good key reds to start with. No reactions, but I think he already secured his foothold with the equipment, so that's fine. He can draft reactions as they come further into the draft, and then just sculpt out that blue base, especially with blue stealth cards that find his way.
It is important to note that none of those red attack reactions wield, so we know that there are other news at this table.
Yep.
1, possibly 2, because he did pass a couple packs with 2 of those attack reactions in them. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the pod shakes out.
The real question is how far down the line they actually fell, and whether or not those new actually stick to the hero, because when you wheel and pass to the other direction, the pecking order changes. So sometimes people will pivot off, even when we're all the way through pack 1.
And Talon could be thinking that, hey, whatever, if I create a new to my left, then I'm going to be cutting them off for 2 out of 3 of these packs.
Yep.
And that's A-okay with me. I don't have to have the best deck in the pod.
And I already got all the equipment,
the best new deck. Yep.
Absolutely. What do we deal with here?
Get rid of those filthy tokens. Hello, Bonds of Attraction. How do you feel about that card in new?
It's fairly good. Given that you will find matching colors far easier than like the same name targets for Bonds of Memory, this is a better pick, and no wonder it comes at rare.
And furthermore, it gives us that targeted banishing from the graveyard. Those blues cannot hide. We're seeing our red Nimble Strike. We haven't seen any Nimbleisms yet. I definitely think that the red Nimble Strike fits most cleanly into the new play lines. Sometimes into some of the Zen play lines. So it'll be interesting what he elects to pick up here, because the only other really tempting thing...
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. We go for the blue Desires of Flesh.
I think this is fine. That Keikoi might even wheel for the headpiece, because there are other headpieces that the other two classes really want more than just prevent one. But he's probably thinking, I need to sculpt out my blue base because I took so many reds in pack 1.
Absolutely. And he is sitting at 5 blues currently.
Yeah. And I think to be comfortable in new, you need something around like 13, 14, 15. Even more, honestly, because Transcending elevates the power of blues beyond even what a red can do.
We see another Skyhold Keikoi, but we are going to go for the red Inducement. So how do you feel about this card in the red versus the blue?
The thing it will always synergize best with is going to be pick-to-pieces, because as a 2-card hand, the maximum it will do is 5 unpreventable, which can be a really annoying number for Enigma to dance around. A blue hiss, that's pretty good.
Pick-to-piece is still not at all a part of Talon's deck.
Another Stilettos here, so whoever made the first couple picks, they're definitely not new from that side of the table. So
yeah, that's an interesting observation, because we have to assume that they would pick up that best in slot equipment the second they saw it.
And given that Talon already has a pair of Stilettos of his own, it will probably find its way to one of the other news if they're still on her.
Which could make them feel even more comfortable that they're in the right seat.
Okay.
Here we go.
That's the one. That's what you take. Red reactions, please.
Yes, and Talon being rewarded for, as you said, staking his claim early, because he's finding these red attack reactions in pack 2. Now I guess he's kind of hoping that that other new at the table is going to be flooded with these things, and he will be able to pick up the scraps.
Given that there were a couple of red reactions that we saw in pack 1, maybe they might be fighting over class blues, but you still have like all of the Mystic talent and some generics that you can feasibly play.
Here we go. Another red hiss.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, a red hiss. Another red attack reaction is really where my head was at. And notice that this is not the time that Talon decides to fill out his blue base and take a protection pick for his resources. You got to take these red attack reactions when they come around.
They don't possibly wheel at this point in the draft.
Talon is looking very comfortable right now. Completely unflappable. He's making his picks quick.
Moisturized.
Not much to think about.
In his lane. Unfazed, focused.
Indeed.
I think that's how the phrase goes.
Interesting. We're seeing... So we still have our 2 Assassin Commons, but they're both in the blue, which is fine. Talon decides to fill up his deck here with a Mind's Desire. Interesting that he doesn't go for the Bonds of Memory there. What's your thought on that, Marcus?
So Mind's Desire cares about non-attack actions, and given that you have to find another card of the same name in Limited, Bonds of Memory is fine, but it's unlikely to gain you a life. The likelihood of it gaining you a life from banishes is a bit more likely because it's just a non-attack action.
So you, in general, value the life gain a little more than that.
If that was me sat in Talon's place, I would make the exact same decision. Okay, drafting a Chi.
Which is honestly not a bad time to pick it up. Honestly, not a bad Chi either.
No.
Bottom line, when it comes down to it, all you want from your chi is easy activation. That's why a drop in the ocean is usually at the bottom of the totem pole, because I have to play this on my opponent's turn, and then I have to somehow find another blue instant to play with it. There's no way. Stir the Pot, always active, even on turn 0, even if your opponent and you have nothing in your graveyard.
Yeah, that is the beauty of Stir the Pot, is that there is no condition in which you cannot play it, or a game state which you cannot spend the cards and transcend. 2 Rising Tide in a row. So
Yeah, it is 2 Rising Tide in a row.
Not being punished and finding blues naturally. Another opportune red.
Yeah, I wonder, as a lot of these blues kind of come back around to him, I wonder if he's wishing he had taken some of those more premium reds early. He's sitting at 12 reds and 11 blues. Honestly, he's probably still in a good spot. Starting to get some of these less enticing wheels because they're no longer in his class.
I think this is honestly a very comfortable position to be in, personally. I think because he has sufficient reds as threats, sufficient blues to be the entire base on its own. He's just looking to net like a couple more chi and fill out the other parts of his equipment suite, which is head and chest.
Oh my goodness. Talon is the king of assassin equipment. Yeah, we're still looking for a headpiece and a chest piece, right? And what do you feel is the best in slot for new in those equipment slots?
I mean, it's nice to have just the Keikoi in both those slots, because it's an unconditional, just prevent 1 whenever you like. Arguably, you can get a little risky and go for like the Koi chest piece or the Snake Hide. But of course, you have to go to 1 life exactly, starting your turn. So they can be risky to use. But the Keikoi in particular, if, say, you just want the advantage of having a card from nowhere, in Keikoi fetching the chi for you when you go to 1, it can like swing a game when you went to that brink, so to speak.
Absolutely. While Talon looks over his cards, let's take a look at his pack 1 once again. Yeah, it was pretty light on blues, wasn't it? Which kind of informs the decision to more highly pick blues as you move throughout pack 2. But it looks like he's got a really solid base. Now I think Talon is kind of just given the green light to choose whatever the heck he wants out of these packs.
Basically.
And he's going to be all right.
That's a good red.
The Art of Desire Body, yeah.
Passover?
Possibly the best Transcend card for new specifically. Obviously, given specific points in the game.
Okay, he will go with 1 more red. I think there's probably 1 to 2 more reds that he should ideally take, and they might want to be reactions if he can help it, because otherwise he needs the rest of the blues to flesh out the deck.
Because currently we are sitting on 3 red attack reactions, but one of them is Intimate Inducement, and you really need the hisses and venomous bites to really push damage and close games out. So, and what do you know? We find another red hiss.
When's the cutoff, Talon? When are we getting the rest of the blues?
Yeah. Talon never punished Stradley. That's our boy. And let's see if we are indeed right, and that Talon is going to be cutting off that second new on this pack. It'll tell us pretty quick once we see those assassin cards dry up, or just continue to come Talon's way.
Yeah, given that last pack, I don't think the blue Venomous is going to make its way around. Okay, blue. Keikoi for the chest. A red pick to pieces.
We have no pick to pieces
That
yet.
might take priority here. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's absolutely reasonable. I mean, in the rock, paper, scissors that is part of the misfail draft, new is definitely weak to Enigma, and pick to pieces is the tool for her to...
It is your silver bullet, yeah.
Exactly.
And there's a yellow.
There's a yellow.
Okay.
Not bad at all.
Red evasive leap.
How do you feel about that card in new?
The defense reaction is very good in the mirror, because when you're trading reactions with each other, having something at reaction speed is good for ensuring tempo doesn't swing too far either way, you know?
Absolutely. And Talon electing to take the yellow pick to pieces, probably thinking that I'm gonna get a good wheel either way. Either I am going to get that blue stealth card that blocks for 3, or I'm gonna get that blue tide chakra. And both of those, a-okay with me. We open a yellow venomous bite that could help us fill out the attack reactions that we still need. Nope.
Okay.
Talon elects
Went
for the
with a
yellow
yellow.
desires of flesh. Desires of Flesh, again, one of those bread and butter cards for new. Like you said, one of the most faithful life gain generators throughout the course of the game, and really important for New's long game plan and enabling her to use Chi, make a huge turn, close out games.
I think the sensible pick, I don't know. I think the Chi is a good one.
Honestly, yeah, that's the way I'm kind of leaning as well. He's got a massive amount of stealth cards, honestly.
Yeah.
Currently sitting at 15 stealth cards.
Yeah, I think it's between the blue intimate and the Chi, because he doesn't need to pick a single stealth card again. Yeah.
Talon making what I think is going to be a very wise choice. Preserve Tradition, another premium Chi card, namely because it just helps you navigate really long games, keeps your threats nice and dense. I mean, premium target for Preserve Tradition is probably that red Blanche.
Yeah.
That was pack 1, pick 1. Sending 2 2-for-7s throughout the course of a game is pretty backbreaking for your opponent.
Yeah, and wiping the blue pitch matters away from any turn in this format is pretty crucial.
Absolutely. Currently sitting at 13 blues. Wondering if Talon is feeling pretty comfortable there, or if he's feeling the pressure to take some of these blue cards, because as you can see, they're kind of drying up. At least good ones.
Yeah. He goes with the reaction.
Are you worried for Talon at this point? Are you worried he's not going to end up with enough blues?
I don't know if I'm all that worried, because he has a couple of yellows to act as pseudo blues here. That blue Mystic might have been my pick here, but he has gone for another stealth card.
Very interesting. Currently now sitting at 17 stealth cards. Talon maybe just really wanting to make sure that he doesn't end up with a bricked hand where he has a red venomous bite and nothing to put it on.
He is going to have plenty of 3 blocks, though.
This is our 5th red Impulsive Desire. Talon, I hope we have the resources. Still sitting at 13 blues.
Surely just a couple Mystic blues.
Probably not a bad place to be, because if you do draw up a bricky hand, like you said, Assassin blocks really well. 3 blocks galore. Not exactly what we want to see here. Oh, he's looking to go for a hate draft
pick,
here.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because honestly, like, red single-minded determination is not that huge of an illusionist card. Most of the time, this card is going to be blocking for 3.
Exactly.
So, I don't know. It's an interesting one for sure. Take a look at this pack breakdown. So far, Talon has taken a single blue. But here he goes, finding the Tide Chakra on the wheel, like we mentioned. He's very happy to see that.
Considering that you'd rather be spending the resources on a Hiss or a Venomous Bite, that's why Tide Chakra is, like, less appealing in draft. And there we go, like, a final Assassin card to wrap up his draft.
Absolutely.
But if we look at the statistics here, between 14 blues and 7 yellows, not so bad.
Honestly, Talon's doing all right. We're sitting at 19 blues, 7 yellows, and 14 blues. Stealth attacks galore, sitting on 19. So if he wants, he could have only 11 cards in his entire deck. That
I was going to raise the point of he gets to be choosy about his reds. He doesn't have to play every single one and make sure everything is a threat. He can cut any amount of the 5 Impulsive Desire red that he drafted. And ensure that the reds he does send are the ones he wants to like absolutely hit and make an impact.
Which is kind of interesting, because a lot of the ways that players are approaching this draft format is they want the flex spots to be in their blues. And why? Because of that new matchup. You don't want to be forced to play powerful blues against new because chances are they're going to get banished and played against you. So it'll be interesting to see, one, if Talon even runs into the other new at the table, because I think we know we have at least one. We probably only have one other one because of the wheels we saw. And whether or not it's a factor.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and take a look at his red since we're on the subject.
Sure.
Let's talk about what is powerful about Talon's deck.
The pack one, pick one.
Pack one, pick one
Red
is an
foil
incredibly
blanche.
powerful one. Yes, red foil blanche, which he is going to be able to recur because of the one of two chi cards that he picked early. We also have some, even though we have a ton of them, we have some of the best-in-class stealth cards, namely Art of Desire Body, Bonds of Memory, which is going to give us that targeted graveyard removal like we talked about, Bonds of Attraction, and, of course, Pick to Pieces, which is going to shore up that Enigma matchup. Furthermore, we have 8 total attack reactions, 3 of which are in that premium spot, along with 2 hisses and 1 venomous bite. Looking at these attack reactions here, Marcus, how do you feel about Talon's damage pushing potential, I guess?
I think is a good amount because it's something between 4 to 5 red reactions to have like a very good new deck. Because
do you count Intimate Inducement as a red react, though?
Not quite, because it doesn't. It lacks the punch. Inducement, if anything, is like I said earlier, like an easy 2-card hand into Enigma to catch them with awkward breakpoints on picture pieces, and also taking something from like the top few cards of their library, like a key aura that they want to defend with, and set up as like a weapon and part of the board. Take that away from them, and like nickel and dime them throughout the rest of the game.
It also allows you to do the Arachne thing and like gain extra information and know exactly what, like you can kind of sort of fix your opponent's next hand to be bricky, or at least as close as you can get it.
That's arguably the best upside of the red, is that, like you said, you see a whole new hand in what you can do with that reaction, in addition to possibly pulling something off it. Even if it's like a 3-block blue that you take away from them and make it block for nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Really let's take a look at Talon's equipment suite. We did end up with 2 best-in-slot equipment, but we only ended up with 2 equipment at all. And we had a couple of opportunities to take some Kikoi instead of some of these other stealth cards. I wonder if during these matchups, Talon will kind of wish that he had one of those pieces instead of the 5th red Impulsive Desire, which is burning a hole in his sideboard.
Honestly, it's very tempting to take another powerful red over being just a little more sensible and saying, hey, I'd like the thing that stays in the arena until I need it, so that I don't need a card to cover up damage and stuff. But having both of these as Battle Worn 1 and 2 reactions for the price of 1 is totally fine, especially seeing as he's got 1 blue Double Trouble.
Yes, exactly. Let's talk about that card, because these 2 equipment are considered best in slot because they enable cards like Double Trouble, which require you to have played or activated 2 or more attack reactions. Both of those, the arm piece and the leg piece, do this on their own.
Absolutely.
And boy howdy, is that powerful.
Honestly, actually, in Limited, given the 30-card limit they introduced going forward with Mistveil, the deck damage itself, by banishing 2 when Double Trouble connects, is arguably the best part about it. So it's a very functional blue in that it deals deck damage and can banish things if they decide to block it and respect your reactions.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, since we're on the blue page, let's talk about some of these other premium blues. How do you feel about this card?
This is going to activate more than you think in Limited, because everybody has to share the Mystic talent with all 3 Mystic heroes. Can take away Chi and be extra backbreaking, because if you banish a Chi, they never get to transcend with it. You draw a card, you gain 1 life. It's just like little bits and cantrips that really help.
And what I love about this card specifically in New is that it's turned on by her weapons.
Yep.
the Mistblades, which just make it inherently more powerful, right? All of a sudden it's got Go Again, it's got more power. It allows you to actually capitalize on the card draw if you happen to hit it.
Yeah.
Furthermore, chances are this card is going to be in your pitch stack, and by the time you play it,
Everyone's on blues.
everyone's on blues anyway. So this is a really nice pickup, I think, for Talon, especially if, like you said, he likes games to go long, and he takes them there.
I mean, he plays Riptide. He's pretty comfortable with longer games.
Fatigue Riptide at that. Let's talk about this card, Tide Chakra. You talked about it kind of being a little bit difficult to set up. However, I tend to kind of like it in the blue. Talk to me about this card in general.
I mean, if you consider the transcend that you're looking for off the chakra to make them on rate / above rate, this synergizes well when you have a red stealth and then you play the chakra and respond to it with your chi, and then you fulfill the transcend, so you +3. So this is like an almost red reaction. You won't get the sliver or Fang Strike token, but you'll still get to connect, hopefully, by going over the top with it.
And at worst, it's a blue that blocks 3.
Very true.
Furthermore, I think it's incredibly important to note, and a lot of newer players to part the Mistfail draft miss this. This and Venomous Bite and Hiss all say target assassin or mystic attack action card, which means that all of these assassin attack reactions can be utilized on our water mystic attacks, like Rising Tide, of which Talon has 2. And not only in this case will it pump. Not only in this case will playing the blue Tide Chakra pump Rising Tide by +2. It'll also be a target for Transcend. So
it will.
Yeah, really, really powerful stuff. We got 29 block 3s on Talon's list, which means that if his game plan is taking it to the finish line, nice and slow, he's got the tools to do it.
Yeah, he's got plenty to choose from. Not counting those illusionist picks that he either landed with later on or took as hate drafts, but he has an insane amount of stealth cards that he can use as his 3 blocks. He doesn't care that, like, some hands you might just have to fold and wait for a better reaction. And considering that, like, you get to play the best of the 2 blocks so that you don't have to block for 2.
Absolutely. So we've talked about what is really good about Talon's deck. Let's take a look at what might be a little bit lackluster. I always love to start with the yellows in this case. That being said, Talon's yellows are not terrible, honestly. One of them is a Flex Clause, which won't make it into his deck anyway.
No.
One of them is an Evasive Leap, which he probably won't be forced to play. Honestly, that's what you want from your yellows. You don't want to be forced to play them.
It could be a sideboard piece if you come into the new mirror, but even then, as a yellow, spending a whole card to prevent 2 at reaction speed, you could take it or leave it, but...
And finding himself with 4 stealth cards, one of which is a picked piece and is goaded into the Enigma matchup. Honestly, I think he's feeling pretty good about this yellow spread. Even the yellow Hiss is fine and in certain cases. Obviously, you'd love it to be red, and if you get your opponent down to 1, you'll be cursing yourself for taking a yellow Hiss. But
I think it's totally fine, actually, because if you have multiple Hiss... it converts the action point that you gain from that slither into just sending 1 more chain link in another stealth card. Like you get to treat your stealth cards as like head jabs in a way.
Yeah.
You will go a little bit wider than people expect because they look at daggers and they look at reactions and think, surely you're only like going over the top once. No, you can go wider.
And not only are they head jabs coming in for 0 for 3, but they also have on hits that are incredibly relevant. They are giving you more time by giving you life gain potentially, and also doing, like you said, critical deck damage, which is really important.
The wider you get to go and basically have license to keep in a hand, the more deck damage you will do, which is like damage on both fronts in limited.
Yeah. absolutely. Let's take a look at his Mystic pool real quick. Some of these are dead cards, like Moon Chakra, obviously, because they're not even in his class.
I mean, a valid hate draft because it's the red one, yeah.
Exactly, especially because at the time, Talon was incredibly low on pick to pieces, right? If you are very pick to pieces dense, then this card is almost something you want in the opposing Enigma deck. However, because I believe he hadn't even taken his first one yet,
No.
this was probably a pretty valid hate draft.
It was about halfway through that he took a red, yeah.
And because of the new deck size limit, 30 cards, you actually have room. One of the things a lot of people have really been liking about this draft format is that you actually have room to do things like hate draft. You
Yeah.
have extra flex picks that you can do creative things with.
It's definitely a breath of fresh air to be able to do that, like, in addition to not being on several baubles if you have to pivot really, you know, ham-fistedly and later into the pack. It allows for that. Like, my draft one, I started drafting Zen and staying fairly open. I was given Assassin cards as a mixed signal, and then I eventually have to settle on the Enigma seat and commit to it because everything else basically dried up around me.
Yeah.
And it was the correct choice.
Well, that's enough about Talon's deck. We're about to see it in action in not too long. But first, we're going to go for a 5-minute break, and then we will be back with more Flesh and Blood action with the final games of the June AGE Open Series. Don't go anywhere. Flesh and Blood will be right back.
Do not turn off.